Hi there, we're going to spend just a few minutes talking about inventory and some of the neat things you can do with analytics for Spire and inventory. I'll start by loading up some data in the details view, and basically what you'll see here when I've loaded up the data is we bring in default columns that are all quite useful, warehouse part number, description, and so on, average cost total, current cost total, on-hand quantity. Some really useful information is available in the this year, last year, next year, information about sales year to date and unit sales. And you can of course sort by all these columns. So if I wanted to see top sellers, for example, I just jump to the top here and I can see based on unit sales the top sellers. So super useful information. As is always the case, if you go into the field chooser, there's many more additional fields that you can use that are tied to Spire's inventory module. So individual, last year, this year, unit sales, selling price levels are all there. Lots of information about what sales account you're using, what the retail price is, and so on. So all those fields are available. One of the things though that we added is the ability for, in larger lists, for you to trim the list down. So for example, I might say, instead of loading all this, I only had a couple hundred items, but I could easily have had hundreds of thousands of items, is to start by saying, well, let's focus specifically on a product category. So if I select speakers and get data, what I get basically is just speakers. So now I've limited my list down from 200 and something to 76 items, and I'm now just looking at speakers. This is basically a pre-filter, so it happens at the load time. So it speeds up how quickly you load the information and limits the size of the information that you're loading, which is really quite useful. You can do your custom calculated fields, so I might want to say, what happens if my current cost goes up, for example. I can do that here. Let's say current cost plus 1.2, let's say, and I'll do a custom calculated field, and let's go ahead and add that. Here I'm going to say I want to know what happens if my current cost goes up by 1.2. And what that does is automatically adds that field onto the list. It's over at the end, so there's my current cost plus. So it's taken the current cost field and it's multiplied it times 1.2. I didn't do any rounding or formatting, but so that kind of gives me a quick way to kind of eyeball what would happen if my prices went up, maybe as a result of my vendor prices going up for the people who sell me speakers, or exchange rates going up. And I can do further math to that to even extend that to see what would my cost prices have been, or profits have been reduced by had I extended that value. So very, very powerful to be able to add your own custom fields as well. We also added into the inventory module a summary module. The summary module is a little bit different, and there's one primary reason why the summary module is important here. And the reason the summary module is important is if you, as we do by default, summarize by warehouse, you get a really nice way of seeing by part number your items basically on a per warehouse basis, all on one line. And that's often important. People often look for that. I want to know exactly what in each one of my warehouses my quantities are, because maybe I want to transfer between those warehouses or move inventory around. And of course, as always, you can add additional fields. So I could say, for example, I want committed quantity in there as well. So I can look at committed quantity, and maybe I want back order quantity. And I can drop that in there as well. So now what I basically get is those values across each one of the warehouses. And of course, as always, you can limit this list. So if you're only concerned about those items that have a back order quantity of greater than 0, you can go into here and say only show me values from 1 to whatever, some large value. And now basically what I've got is a list of those items and their particular warehouses where the back order quantity is greater than 0. It just so happens that the back order quantity is only greater than 0 in warehouse 00 for these items, but it could be across multiple warehouses. So again, very useful, very powerful way of basically looking at inventory across warehouses. And then last but not least, one of the really, really useful things in inventory is reporting. So in reporting, I can get data, and this basically becomes the working list of items that I'm reporting off of. and I can use any of the default reports that are there. So for example, I can look at inventory top sellers. I can print off shelf labels. I can look at unit sales. Let's look at the default. And this is basically a default report that's just showing me information based out on product category and warehouses of on-hand committed, back-ordered, available, and so on. And we extend the current cost price or average cost price to show the value of inventory in each product grouping. All the reports are purpose-built for different reasons. The Reorder Report, for example, if I print preview that one, focuses on specific information regarding reorders. So here we do a reorder calculation, and just to make it obvious that items might need to be reordered, we turn those items red. So here we're saying, based on on-hand versus back-ordered versus committed, we calculate an available quantity, and then we calculate from reorder point what the actual reorder quantity should be. And the cool thing about this is all these calculations are fully customizable. So for example, if you didn't like that calculation, I can go into the report designer and I can go ahead and change that calculation to be something else if I want to. I'll just quickly show you how that, or where that particular calculation is. So again, I can go into here, go into the field list, and for my reorder quantity or to order quantity, I can edit what's called an expression, and this shows us exactly how it's being calculated. If the available quantity minus the reorder quantity is less than 0, then I want to calculate out what the reorder quantity should be. Otherwise, leave it blank, meaning I don't need to reorder anything. And you can again customize these calculations in whatever way you see fit. Let's just cancel out of there. You can do really neat things with reports. The catalog report is a great example of one. If I print preview the catalog report, what you'll see in the catalog report is that it produces a catalog, and if you happen to have linked pictures and barcodes, it shows those as well. So those all get moved into a catalog type report. And it takes a little work to get your inventory set up to be able to do this quite as nicely as this with pictures, but not any more work than setting up pictures against your inventory items. So again, lots of different things you can do in reports. One last minute add we made that's really useful. You can generate a quick report based on whatever structure you'd like. So here's a way to generate a very quick report. I'm going to say I want a report that's first grouped by warehouse, then within warehouse it's grouped by product code, and then within each one of those I want to sort by product description. So that what I'll basically see now, and let's size this so it's a little bit bigger. Warehouse doesn't need to be that big, but part number does. And description, and my current cost price, I've got the average of that, and I've got a count on how many items are in each grouping. And let's actually have a grand total as well of the current cost. What happens now is I want to generate a report, but instead of modifying one of the existing ones, I'll go new report from grid. And what this does is takes whatever you've done in the grid here and then creates a default designer report. So doing nothing else, if I just go into print preview, it now basically has created a report for me which is based on how the grid is arranged. So by warehouse, then by product code, sorted according to part number description, with subtotals in each one of the groupings. So the idea here isn't that this is a way to create an immediate report as much as it's a starting point. You can go in and resize fields and give this report its own name. Let's show you how to add this to the report suite. I'll just add this and call this product listing, and I'll save it, and we can call it whatever we want. We're automatically in the right directory, so we'll call it inventory product listing, and I'll save that and I'll close. So what happens is, as soon as I come back, inventory product listing is an available report. It's no longer dependent on the grid, so I can put other fields in the grid, take fields out, I can do whatever I want. But when I run this report and print preview it, it's remembered the settings as per how I set up the grid initially. So it's just a very quick and easy way to get a report. From here you can add all the things you might want to add: page numbers, additional descriptions, you can format things differently, you can add custom calculations. It's just a quick way to get to a report. So that's a really quick kind of overview of inventory. Suffice it to say, based on all the number of fields that are available and all the filtering and grouping and sorting capabilities, there's quite a lot that you can do with inventory, and inventory is obviously an important module where there are a lot of things you'll want to do.